Well, this is Whiskey Fireside Chat number 24. I haven't had a fire chat for a while, and I haven't had whiskey for a while. I'm not having fire because there's a fire ban, so I'm on the porch. The whiskey is White McKay, I think. It's a blended, because I have no money. I have yet to get my whiskey sponsor. Hello? I also killed a wasp. We got a wasp drunk anyway. A little spicy, little smoky. I don't know about that one. Okay. Well, been a lot of solo trips this year. I read a lot of books during some thunderstorms, and I collect books, a whole pile of books, a lot of books. All canoeing books, old outdoor books, just endless books. So I thought randomly I'd just pick out a few that I would reread on any solo trip. Great Heart. There's so many stories written about the Hubbard expedition in Labrador. This is my favorite. Written by James West Davidson and John Rugge. They redid the trip and just wrote about the journey. If you don't know about this adventure, Hubbard, Wallace, and a native guide from James Bay, I forget his name, sorry, went off to discover Labrador, and they took the wrong river, got lost. Hubbard died. Wallace came back, wrote a book about it. The wife, Mina Hubbard, didn't like the read, so she went off to do the journey on her own with the native guide. Supposedly there was a love affair going on there, but they really couldn't talk about it because it was way back in the time. Then Dylan Wallace also went on the journey, and he got lost again. And Mina Hubbard actually found the river and wrote about it. So this is I think the best read on that story. The Tent Dwellers, about a bunch of guys going down this river back in the day in Nova Scotia, and they had to catch a moose for the museum. That's a good story. True North by Elliot Merrick, and this is really a good classic because I think it was, again, back in the 40s and 50s, and they hated society, they hated New York, the business of New York. They went off to live as trappers in Labrador, and this is their story. Now, what I like about this is that someone could do this today and write about it, it'd be the same perspective. Into the Great Solitude by Robert Perkins. If you have never seen his films, look for them. They're hard to find now because they're all old VHS. I don't think he's done anything for quite a while, but this man has done amazing trips in the far north and has a totally different perspective on things. I wouldn't say odd, I would say unique. A very unique person, a different read. Ghost Walker, Artie Lawrence, any of his books. I grew up reading this guy's books. He's basically a biologist or scientist or nature lover that basically went to live in nature and study animals and wrote about it. Tons and tons of different reads, but this one's about a cougar, and he slept in the woods in the mountains for, I don't know, let's say a year, just to study cougars. Got this one because I've never heard of it before. I got it at a used bookstore. Was it Sloan? Yeah, Tony Sloan and Blackflies in Whitewater, and it's just about him running rivers in the 70s and 80s in northern Quebec. Good read. Walk in the Yukon by Chris Townsend, and if you're a backpacker and you don't know him, you should. He's been writing about backpacking for many years. Why I like his stuff is a lot of his books, he just goes right into the woods off trail and just walks across the Yukon, and really good read for that. Oh, these two here. Canoeing with the Cree by Eric Sevareid. I am pronouncing that wrong, probably, but this is a classic read. A lot of Americans would know about this book. And yeah, he went on an incredible journey way back in the time, and a lot of people have tried to retrace it or relive what he did back then. Down Sleeping Island, similar idea. He went to the far north, wrote a whole bunch about it. Lots of great stories in there. Story of John Tanner. Boy, I gotta make this quick. I got way too many books here. But John Tanner, wow, what a bad life he lived. He was kidnapped by natives, sold to a native group, and married a native woman, had kids. He wanted those kids to go to white school in Sault Ste. Marie. The wife didn't want that, so she got, was it her brother, I think? Or anyway, to meet them on the Line River in Quetico, and he shot him dead. Well, he wasn't dead, they left him for dead. Voyageur group picked him up, took him to the fort. They actually wouldn't let him in the fort, so he had to take care of his wounds outside the fort for 36 days. Went to Sault Ste. Marie finally. They said he murdered someone, and he didn't. And they went after him. The military commander that went after him was the murderer, by the way. And this guy ended up committing suicide, and they found his body a couple years later in the woods. Classic books of the... oh man, my brain's done. Nadina area in the eastern part of Lake Nipigon, and this is all about the brook trout and paddling you could do. Edwin Mills wrote this, but this is also a classic. It's based on a story of a trapper living up there. Nikina, Trout Lines North, a true story of the Canadian woods, written by Stephen Meader. Really hard to find, but good read. That's also an amazing read, especially if you paddle up there. Incomplete Anglers, written by John D. Robbins. I think the trip itself was done in 1936. They went on a canoe trip in Algonquin Park, and they got off the train in Radiant Lake, and then they went canoeing through Labier, Dixon, out to Opeongo. What's really cool about this, I've done the same route they did, and it hasn't changed much. Really neat. Classic book. Calvin Rutstrum. He is the Cliff Jacobson before Cliff Jacobson, the Bill Mason before Bill Mason. And this guy spent a lot of time in the woods writing about it, knew all about it. He has a lot of books out. This one's North American Canoe Country. Another great one is Paradise Below Zero. Really good reads. Sigurd Olson is my favorite writer, very much of a poet. He really experienced the North, knew all about it. He could explain the smell of a pine cone like nobody else. John McPhee, The Survival of the Birch Bark Canoe. Really good read about the history of the Maine region and also about canoeing. Eric Morse, Freshwater Saga. This to me is the Canadian version of Sigurd Olson. I think this was my first outdoor book. I would actually say that this book really got me into canoeing. These two. Okay, Alan Kesselheim, can't pronounce it probably, but he wrote Water and Sky, and it was about him and his partner going on a canoe trip, spending 2 years overwintering, and had a lovely time, got married. Then they had problems with their marriage, couldn't conceive a child, so they went on the exact same trip. A few years later, they conceived, and she got pregnant, and they finished the trip when she was 9 months pregnant, and they're still married. Cool. This one you have to read. Hasley, back in the 70s, I believe, maybe 80s, but I'm guessing the 70s. He went to go across Canada by foot and by canoe, and with a bunch of buddies. They left him on the second day. He kept going, met a dog, a wild dog. The dog continued to go with him. He met a photographer along the way as well. Finished the trip, went back to New York, couldn't handle dealing with his life. The dog died, he committed suicide. Book was never written until the editor put all the stuff together and finished it 10 years later. Amazing. Magnetic North. Last one, James Raffin, Somewhere North of 60. He's written so many books, great guy. Does a lot for the Canoe Museum, a lot for canoeing itself. He would actually say that this is not his best book. It's my favorite book. Why? It's just a solid read of people going out in the north on a solid northern canoe trip. And I remember introducing him once when he was speaking in my hometown, Peterborough. Well, not my hometown, I'm from Milton, whatever. But yeah, I've been here for 30, whatever. I don't know, now I live in Birch North, whatever. I don't know. Anyway, introduced this guy when he came to an area near me. And I introduced him by saying, he's such a good writer that I was at the laundromat, and a woman was folding her lingerie and showing me that lingerie. I was not interested because I was reading this book and wanted to finish it. That's how good it is. Whiskey Fireside Chat, number 24. During a fire ban. Oh, that is, yeah, I wouldn't recommend this whiskey.